Expedition 33 creeps up on you like an STD in Vegas. Starts off with a cheeky little itch, and before you know it, you're scratching like a dog with fleas, absolutely gagging for more. While the world's busy wetting itself over the Oblivion remaster, quietly releasing in the background is Expedition 33, a game that deserves to go down as one of the best RPGs of this generation. I ain't gonna lie to you lads, the opening few hours nearly had me tossing it in the bin, as it does have its issues, but now I'm sat here, egg dripping down my face, munching on a fat slice of humble pie, because this little French masterpiece might just be my game of 2025, and I ain't saying this lightly. It's got the most glorious turn-based combat system I've ever played with. So put the kettle on, grab a cuppa, and let's discuss this and more in today's review. I'm gonna dodge spoilers in this review because trust me, Expedition 33 spins a magnificent story that deserves to smack you right in the feelings without anyone ruin it for you. The story's packed with so many twists, cliffhangers and what the actual fuck moments that it's one of the few games these days where the story alone propels you to keep playing. I'll keep it dead simple for you. You're part of an expedition heading off to a faraway land to chin a boss. No shit, Reggie, I hear you cry. That sounds about as exciting as a pensioner's orgy. Well, pipe down my pedigree chums. I'm keeping it vague on purpose because the why, the how and the what the bloody hell is going on are best experienced fresh. No spoilers, so no regrets here. What I can share though is the feels, the tone and why it grips you harder than a drunk uncle at a wedding. There's a loss, sadness and pure shock baked into that opening act, laying down a foundation that hits hard. But just when you think it's all gone full emo, the game throws in brilliant little moments of humour and light-hearted banter, giving the characters proper humanity in a world that's otherwise gloomier than a goth's wank bank. And what absolutely kills here, lads, is the staggering quality of the script and the acting. It's proper top shelf. Every scene unfolds with real heart, making you feel the weight of your journey, and for my money, it's one of the biggest reasons Expedition 33 punches so far above its weight. Right, let's get stuck into how it actually plays, and here's where things get a bit, well, mixed. For the most part, you're legging it about in third person, chatting up all the weird and wonderful nutters that roam this gorgeous world, pushing the main story along and throwing hands, well, metaphorically, with monsters and bastards in a turn-based style combat. Think classic Final Fantasy and Persona Royale here. Now, we'll get deep into the combat later, but the exploration side of things is a bit of a letdown, truth be told. The world itself is a work of art, proper beautiful, dripping in fantastical designs and eye-melting scenery, but sadly you're very much shoved down the rails like a drunk tourist on a Paris metro. Yeah, you can wander off a bit and poke around, but with no map to guide your sorry ass, it can get a tad confusing. And while you might stumble on the odd weapon or a cheeky character upgrade, truth be told, there's sod all else to find. Very few side quests, very little in the way of collectible bollocks, but weirdly, that's actually a bit of a blessing. See, the beauty of Expedition 33 is it ain't some bloated whale of a game that demands you take time off work just to finish it. It's tight, it's focused, and you can smash through it probably in around 30 hours. And honestly, in today's industry where every bastard RPG demands a blood sacrifice and a 6-month commitment, that's a breath of fresh air, innit? But I ain't gonna deny I wanted maybe just a bit more, in particular some additional lore focused items for me to understand better the world and its traditions, which at times feels almost too much like a mystery. What truly does do my head in though is the movement of your character, which feels about as natural as your nan trying to moonwalk. It's stiff, awkward, and every time the game dares ask you to jump across a platform, which thankfully is rare mind you, it turns into a full-blown circus act. Half the time you'll either plummet like a sack of spuds or get wedged into some bit of scenery like a turd stuck in a U-bend. Honestly, when I first booted it up and started waddling around, I felt like I was controlling Billy the Puppet from the Saw movies, that creepy little shit on a tricycle that moves like he's got 2 broomsticks rammed up his arse. Except here, it's a a weird French puppet version, like he's just learnt how legs work after downing a bottle of absinthe. Mercifully though, once you power through that early jank, the story grabs you by the balls, and credit where it's due, the movement inside combat is bloody magnificent, like a ballerina on steroids. So it's probably about time then that we talk about the crown jewel, the turn-based combat. And I'll be honest with you, there's so much going on here, it's hard to cram it into words without sounding like a bloke describing his first threesome. So let's start with the headline. For my money, Expedition 33 has the best turn-based combat I've ever played. Hands down. It's better than Persona Royale, better than Final Fantasy, better than any other so-called heavy hitter out there swinging its meat around. It's easy enough to pick up, but mastering it is another thing entirely. It's slick, it's smart, and most importantly, it's more exciting than a coke-fueled stag do. The challenge here is real. I'd be getting battered by a boss, dying over and over until finally, after learning his moves, clocking his patterns, and summoning the patience of a saint, I'd land the killing blow and roar out a massive you at my screen like some deranged football hooligan. And that right there, lads, is when I knew this game was something special. Very few games these days get you so wound up, so invested, that you find yourself shouting at a bunch of pixels. But Expedition 33 does, it properly does, and that's why this game is such a banger for me. The combat then breaks down into a few juicy key areas. First up, you've got your action points. These little beauties let you either whip out your gun and pop a few weak points, or more importantly, unleash your proper heavy hitting skills. Every character's got their own unique flavour. Think your standard fantasy bollocks, a mage type, a warrior type, a rogue type, etc. Now, once you've spunked all your action points, you can't just sit there scratching your ass. You've got to earn them back by doing basic attacks or triggering other traits, and don't worry, I'll get to that part soon enough. As with most games in this genre, your skills are tied to classic elements like fire, electric, physical, and all that nonsense. But here's where it gets properly cheeky. By stacking your attacks smartly across characters, you can unleash combos that hit harder than your dad's belt. For example, I had one lass who set an enemy on fire, and then bang, the next character would swoop in, twat the burning enemy, and receive a heal buff on the burn trait. It's that sort of layered, clever little system that makes the combat feel more satisfying, as you'll be playing a mini game of chess. But don't get the wrong idea, it ain't all slow and boring either. When it's the enemy's turn to dish out a hiding, you've got two options. First, you can hit the dodge button, nice and easy, sidestep the pain, no harm done. Or if you've got the bollocks for it, you can parry, time it just right, and you won't just block their attack, you'll unleash a devastating counter that's animated so bloody perfectly, it'll make you want to light up a cigarette afterwards. In the later boss fights, they don't just swing once and call it a day. Oh no lads, they're smashing at you like a cracks out octopus, throwing 5 or 6 hits in rapid succession. Learning their movesets and nailing that timing is absolutely crucial. But when you and your squad start parrying attack after attack, 5, 6 perfect blocks in a row, and then unleash a brutal counterattack that caves their skull in, I ain't gonna lie, it's so good you'll cream your pants and ask for a cuddle afterwards. It's absolutely exhilarating, and it makes every single fight feel like an event, not just another button mashing chore. Then we get to a cheeky little layer of complexity, and I'll do my best to explain it, but honestly, it's easier just to fumble about and learn it on the job. So, dotted around the world, you'll find these little things called pictos. Think of them as a magical trinket that gives you a special trait. For example, slap on the dodge picto, and every time you nail a perfect dodge, you'll nab yourself a free action point, which, as you know, is the lifeblood in battle to use your skills. Wear these trinkets during fights, gain enough experience with them, and eventually they become permanent passive skills without the need to wear them. You can eventually stack up to 6 of the little buggers, meaning there's a load of room for tweaking builds and finding dirty little combos that suit your playstyle. Now, where it gets a bit head scratchy is tying it in to the Lumina point system. See, mastering a picto is one thing, but actually applying that sexy new skill to yourself costs Lumina points, a separate point system you pick up through exploration. And that is where Expedition 33 fumbles the ball a bit. You see, the game does a pretty shit job of explaining any of this. You'll find Lumina points early on, but The menus tease you about using them long before you're actually able to. I only figured it out way later after a certain character unlocks, when suddenly, boom, the game goes, oh yeah, now you can actually do something with them. Little quality of life niggles like that don't ruin the party, but they do leave you scratching your head thinking, was it me being thick, or is the game just talking bollocks? Now let's talk about the skill tree, and yeah, it's a bit of a dog's breakfast if I'm honest. Remember how I said earlier, action points let you chuck fireballs about and whatnot through the use of your skills? Well, as you level up, you can learn new skills or juiced up versions of old ones. Sounds simple, right? Problem is, the actual layout of the skill tree is as clear as mud. The explanations are bare bones, and some of the skills themselves feel like they were designed by a committee of drunk poets. One character you unlock, for example, builds up a separate set of points using cards, and trying to figure out how all that interacts with your normal skills is like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while getting slapped around the face. I've basically bumbled my way through it by sheer dumb luck, but if I'm honest, I reckon I need to watch some bearded YouTube nerd break it all down in a 45-minute dissertation just to understand what the f*** is actually going on. As for the enemies you'll be twatting about, they're brilliantly designed, properly animated, each with their own attack patterns and dirty little tricks. The parry system shines here, you think you've got the timing down, but then they'll throw in just enough of a delay to make you look like a right mug. Oh, and one final thing on the combat. Yes, you'll find weapons to upgrade, each scaling with different stats like strength, vitality, and all the usual RPG bollocks. But seriously, when you take a step back and see everything this combat system throws at you, all the layering, the customization, the timing and strategy, you realise it's absolute dynamite, pure, addictive, crack-filled garlic bread, dynamite. For all the little niggles and frustrations that I've moaned about, the combat alone outweighs them tenfold and rocket propels Expedition 33 straight into a league of its own. As for the game world itself, it's sort of split into two main parts. First up, you've got your unique levels. These are the big set piece areas tied to the story where you've got a mission to crack on with to push the plot forward. Smash that out and then you're lobbed into a beautifully crafted overworld map, complete with a fisheye isometric view that makes you feel like you've been spiked at an art gallery. Even in this overworld space, you're not just sat there twiddling your thumbs, you can still scrap with random mobs, dig up a few cheeky secrets and generally go poking about where you shouldn't. And nicking a page straight out of Baldur's Gate 3's playbook, you can always head back to camp. Here you can have a proper kip, heal up your battered crew, upgrade your weapons and have a natter with your party members to unlock more story bits. Overall, it's really well executed. The overworld and camp system break up the story levels nicely, giving you a proper breather before you dive headfirst into the next batch of emotional trauma and monstrous beatdowns. It's about time then that we probably chingwag about the graphics, and for me, it's a real game of two halves, this one. On the one hand, from an artistic point of view, it's absolutely phenomenal. The whole thing oozes French seduction, like you've been lured into a boudoir by a croissant and a bottle of cheap red wine. The character designs, the world building, the odd little flourishes everywhere. It's fantasy on steroids, and not the cheap knockoff ones either. You'll get jaw-dropping vistas, beautifully drawn wildlife and vegetation so lush you'll feel guilty stepping on it. The colour palette is absolutely bang on too, vibrant without being all kids cereal garish, and if you've ever watched the French film Amélie, there's a definite whiff of that same childlike wonder and magic baked into the DNA here. Honestly, I can't rave about it enough, and if there's one thing the devs absolutely nailed with Expedition 33, it's given the game a proper unique identity, a swagger and style all of its own. No cookie cutter bullshit here. It's French fantasy turned up to 11 and it's bloody gorgeous. Where it loses me though is in how it actually plays out. I already moaned about the piss poor animations when you're running or hopping about like a drunk toddler. It's all a bit stiff and robotic, like someone strapped a GoPro to a shot mannequin, at least until you dive into the glorious combat where suddenly it feels like a different game altogether. With that said, all the cutscenes are animated well enough, but are set to 30 FPS and don't feel as high res as the rest of the game, so they do feel a little bit jarring here and there. And as gorgeous as the world looks, it never fully feels alive. It's like you're running through a very pretty haunted house, all designed for you to plod through corridors and set piece areas no matter how much they try and blag you otherwise. I would have loved to seen it lean more into proper open world design, letting the environment breathe a bit more with wildlife roaming about and whatnot. Instead, what you get are static pre-baked areas, no crumbling rocks when you climb cliffs, no bushes rustling when you charge through them, just glorified cardboard sets with enemies conveniently plonked about the place as you trundle from point A to point B. As for optimisations, well, strap yourself in, lads. Most of the footage you're seeing here was me running the game uncapped, supposedly getting 100 plus frames per second at 4K on epic settings. Sounds sexy on paper, right? In reality, it was a bloody nightmare. Constant micro stutters, janky frame pacing. It felt like I was playing underwater with a blindfold on. Gave me a perfect excuse, mind you, for why I couldn't parry for shit. It's not me, lads, it's the frames. Eventually I bit the bullet and locked the frames to 60 FPS. And boy oh boy, it was like someone took the clamps off my nipples. Smooth, fluid, glorious. A proper game changer for me personally. The combat, which was already banging, suddenly felt perfect. So here's the lesson. No matter how fancy your monitor is, no matter how beastly your GPU thinks it is, just whack it onto 60 FPS. Trust me, this isn't some buttery smooth 240Hz PC Master Race showcase. This is clearly a game optimised around a solid 60, and once you embrace that, it's absolutely magic. As for the sound, well, this is a tough one for me. See, usually in a review I like to balance things out, keep it fair, keep it honest. But Expedition 33, honestly, I've got nothing bad to say about it, not a sausage. The sound is absolutely incredible, start to finish, in every single way imaginable. The first thing that slapped me right in the feelings was the music. Hauntingly beautiful melodrama with some operatic bird belting out tunes that had me thinking I was about to walk into a gothic porno. It draws you in over and over again, especially during the big emotional gut punches of the story. But it ain't all moody wailing either. Some tracks shift into vibrant, unexpected places. At one point, I swear, I was bashing skulls to what sounded like African-inspired percussion, and it works brilliantly. I honestly can't rave about this soundtrack enough. It's the sort of thing that will end up a cult classic amongst the nerdy faithful. And it's not just the tunes, the sound effects are every bit as lush. Bone-crunching sword strikes, arcade-style audio bursts when you nail a perfect parry, giving your adrenaline a proper kick in the bollocks, and peaceful ambient noise as you stroll through the world like some melancholic hero. Then we get to the voice work, and this was easily the biggest surprise for me. It's delivered with such sincerity at times, you almost forget you're in a mad French fantasy world full of weird shit. The lines that matter most, absolutely nailed. No hammy bollocks, no cheesy overacting like you get in some half-assed RPGs. The script itself is top shelf too. The storytelling is so well judged, it could easily have slipped into full-blown misery porn, all depression and melancholy, but instead they weave in little pockets of humour, proper jokes that actually land, giving you a breather before the next emotional haymaker smacks you in the gut. And it makes sense when you clock the cast they've pulled in. This ain't your bargain bin voice crew. You've got Andy Serkis, yes, Gollum himself, slumming it amongst the madness, Charlie Cox from Daredevil, and even Jennifer English, our beloved Shadowheart from Baldur's Gate 3, who pops up throughout. Thanks to them, the whole story just sings, perfectly paced, beautifully acted, and delivered with enough emotional weight to make you forget you're sat in your pants with a half-eaten kebab on your lap. It's proper storytelling, the way RPGs should be done. I could moan and say maybe they should have had some French accents, but it's done so well I can easily turn a blind eye here. So released just a day after the Oblivion remaster, a game that stormed the internet, got handed 9/10 scores left, right and centre, and had folks throwing $50 at it without blinking. Even though it's just a 19-year-old relic with a new lick of paint, you kind of have to feel a bit sorry for Clair Obscur Expedition 33, because what they've created here is beyond anything I could have imagined. In my haste to get this review out to you lot, I whipped out my credit card and happily paid the full price, $50 on Steam. Then 10 minutes later, I clocked it was on bloody Game Pass for free, and you know what? For the first time in my life, I didn't feel mugged off. I was glad I handed over real cash to the dev team, just 30 of them by the way, for bringing me something this special. The incredible combat, the wonderful story, the jaw-dropping set design, the beautiful sound. This is the full package. Now look, if turn-based combat really ain't your cup of tea, I get it, but even then, I honestly think there's enough magic here that it's worth experiencing anyway, just to breathe it all in and get lost in the mad, beautiful world. This one surprised me in more ways than one, and the only thing stopping it from getting a perfect 10 is those niggles with the exploration, the animations, and the world feeling a bit too much like a fake movie set. But Christ, sometimes you've just got to call it like it is. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is an absolute monster of a game, one that will stick in the memory for a long time. As the French would say, un beau jeu. Until next time, my lovelies, Reggie out.